And the countdown begins now. Man, let me tell y'all something, man. When you talk about a day for college football, man, it got no bigger than today. As we was talking about before we went on the air, I was searching for a kind word to talk about my Georgia Bulldogs and the University of Miami, but I think BRF came up with a perfect name for it. What was that name you came up with?
Atrocity.
Yeah, that atrocity for a game, as far as they're concerned, man. But we'll get into that momentarily. But look, we're back live on Saturday on the Undisputed GOAT podcast, man, bringing y'all the best sports content that you want to see on YouTube, man, with my guys, the Big Three, BRF and Flash. And after a long week of unrest, I'm happy to be back on YouTube, on Facebook, on everything, man. Man, how y'all doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Doing great.
Hey, I can't complain. Another. Yeah, I mean, hey, the only thing I'll say as far as weeks like these is just, you got to remember what's the important thing at the end of the day. You just got to keep living, keep enjoying yourself, because we all in this together at the end of the day. So wishing everybody good times, regardless of what's going on. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. We still living life a day at a time. We got to enjoy it while we got it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Shout out to the Sports for You podcast, the best in the West. How y'all doing today? Shout out to Aiden, man. I hope last I checked, y'all was on the way to the state championship in football, man. Shout out to you guys. And the Chosen League, one of the best content creators on Instagram. Shout out to him, man. Colorado did their job. We're going to get to them a little bit later. Hopefully LSU can do what they need to do against that Alabama. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it right now. But like I said, we'll get into that later. But speaking of atrocities, I got to ask this question first, man, because we was just talking about this, man. We was just talking about this. Has Carson Beck cost the Georgia Bulldogs the natty and a potential dynasty? BRF, since you're for Georgia, you go first.
It definitely cost them the SEC championship, because I don't think they're going to go. But in a way that might set them up actually pretty good if they don't have to play the SEC championship, because that's an extra game you might not necessarily have to play. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to his consistency or lack thereof. I mean, you got to. This dude was completing 72% of his passes last year. He's fallen down. He's fallen off to 65%, and he's already thrown 11 interceptions this year, including 3 games of at least 3 picks. Mm-hmm. Like, he went from being potential number 1 overall pick, top 10 lock in the NFL draft to, at this point, he's not a first rounder. He's not a first round draft pick. But I'm not gonna say cost him. I'm not gonna say cost the natty yet, because I just have this sneaky suspicion that the college football playoff is gonna boil down to who gets hot. Because I kind of have a sneaky suspicion that it's not gonna be just the Oregon being ranked 1 and Ohio State, the usual suspects. It wouldn't shock me at all if none of the usual suspects won the national championship this year. It just wouldn't shock me. So I think it's just going to be a matter of, who gets hot. I mean, which coaching staff gets hot about executing, and just, who starts to feel it. When we get into January for the playoff, the national championship game, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's January 20th. The final of the tournament of the playoffs. So, but getting back to Carson Beck, the fall off need to be studied, because this ain't the same dude I saw last year. Poised, accurate, leading, being able to throw his receivers open, making the play when he needed to make the play. This is not the same Carson Beck. He doesn't look confident at all. He doesn't look confident at all in his abilities, not confident in his arm. And I think some of that falls on Mike Bobo too, because his play calling is he's always been a guy that doesn't always necessarily want to take chances with his quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really hurting Georgia from the standpoint of, even though they don't have we were talking about it earlier, champ, like they need somebody big. I think Kobe Young coming back is going to help them a little bit in terms of having a big body for like more 50-50 balls, to where it's like, heck, if you're not confident as far as your accuracy, just throw it up and let somebody get it. But even still, like Mike Bobo's play calling has always left me a lot to be desired, just because it's just not. It's like he just doesn't. He's not creative enough with his play calling. He's not like. He doesn't allow he doesn't just allow the quarterback to like just cut loose and do his thing, and it kind of hurts him in the long run. So even though I don't think Carson Beck has cost him the national championship, I definitely think his play has cost Georgia the SEC championship, because unless just everybody just starts losing, I think Georgia's probably not going to the SEC title game now. And I do think they're going to make the playoff. But Carson Beck is really going to have to take a long, hard look in the mirror if they do make the playoff, and he's going to have to step his game up tremendously for Georgia to really make an impact and ultimately contend for the national championship and win the whole thing. So, has he cost him the Natty? No. Has he cost him the SEC? Absolutely.
And shout out to PSP, man. Like, subscribe to the pod. And, hey, shout out to PSP, man. Had a hell of a show last night, up to almost – well, we're going to speak live for today. Up to 30,000 on YouTube, man. Congratulations, man. Doing this thing, man. Hey, without the Sports PSP podcast, would not be an Undisputed GOAT podcast. Just food for thought. But before you go, Flash, look, this is not the same Carson Beck that we saw last year. Like I said on PSP show last night, this dude could overthrow Castro with the passes that he's throwing. I mean, he can literally just overthrow him with the passes that he's throwing. He's not accurate at all. And the things that he's doing, when you really look back on that Texas game, we won in spite of him. We won in spite of him because he threw 3 interceptions during that game. And when you look at the victories that we've had, we won in spite of him. As far as this draft stock, I mean, look, if Jake Fromm and Stetson Bennett didn't get drafted high, I can just imagine how low he's about to drop.
He's more talented than both, champ. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. His problem is his draft stock is just plummeted with how he's played this year.
Yeah, but the thing is, you see what happens when you start turning the ball over, especially when you have a potential dynasty on your hand. You see how that can affect, dynasty, how they can affect your draft stock. Like I said, that caused Jake Fromm to fall down. And, like I said, although Stetson Bennett was a dynasty quarterback, he went a lot lower than I expected him to. But, he's getting coaching out there in Los Angeles. I always want to say the St. Louis Rams, but, hey. But decide where you want to move and stay there. But, hey, I definitely think he's hurting this draft stock, and if he doesn't get it together soon, I got to see how this game against LSU and Alabama is going to work out. If Bama loses, then it's a whole new deck of cards on the table. If LSU bites the dust, then it's going to be interesting to see how those rankings work out tomorrow. But Flash, what do you think, bro?
I don't think he's cost a shot at the Natty, or even I think that's the beautiful thing, or even at just the title in general. I kind of spoke all year where I think this is the year of where the NIL and factors like that have started to take hold, and I think this is the year of inconsistency when it comes to college football. We saw today Miami lost to Georgia Tech. I know it's an ACC in a rivalry game, but Miami was number 4. Indiana, who's number 8, really struggled with Michigan today. So I know it's conference games, and that's usually those are a little bit tougher. but still, I think we're seeing, inconsistencies. We're seeing Alabama, go and smoke Georgia, and then they go lose to, Mississippi Valley State Tech Lutheran College. So, I mean, we're in this weird transition phase right now of college football where the NIL has now been around for a couple of years or a handful of years now, and so now it's starting to take effect. So you're going to see inconsistency at the quarterback play with players and coaches and everything moving back and forth. So I'm not surprised we're seeing this. To BRF's point, I do think that all it takes is a team to get hot, and right now, like for instance, like just look at Miami. Like, did Miami kind of, for lack of a better term as a sound, blow their wad early in the season? Like, now are they going to start to slow down as a team? Is Cam Ward going to start to kind of slow down in his play? So no, I don't think so. I think Georgia's, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do think it's a benefit. I completely agree with BRF that maybe not playing the SEC title game might be a benefit. So, because do you really want to go against, Alabama again or whoever, another really big, beat yourself up again and then head into the playoffs? Probably not. As for Carson Beck's, I think the thing that's hurt him the most besides his play, I think, is the other quarterbacks that have played this year. Shedeur Sanders, I mentioned Ward before, and the other quarterbacks that have played really well this year. And so that has added to his issues and his draft stock. So yeah, right now he's probably like a late 2 right now. If you just really want to say where his draft stock is falling, he's probably a late 2-ish. So, but no, I'm not surprised at the inconsistency when it comes to Georgia and these top teams in general. In fact, I think Oregon's the only team that's been pretty consistent this year. And if they lost next week, and I don't know who they play off the top of my head, but it wouldn't shock me. So no, I think there's Georgia, I think we're still okay. Well, not we. I'm not a Georgia guy, but I think they're still okay.
You're our adopted brother. You're our adopted brother from Wisconsin. You are Georgia now. But which leads me to the next question. We start you talking about, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that makes us segue right into it. Look, you've been talking about parity and you've been talking about inconsistency in college football, and you've heard me talk about Cinderella stories. So I got to ask y'all this. Which college football team is the biggest story right now in college football? SMU, Indiana, or the Colorado Buffs? Flash, you have the floor.
I think the biggest story based on clicks and views is always going to be Colorado because of Deion Sanders and Shedeur and Travis Hunter. I think that's the obvious answer. I think the deeper answer is Indiana. SMU, the running joke once the NIL became a thing was just like, oh, it's legal now for them? Now they can cook. So, and they are. So I don't think it's a story because it's ironic and funny in a way, and it's kind of cool to see an old school football like legacy from way back in the day. I'm talking pre the ponies, back in the 80s. I mean, talk like an old school team kind of reinvigorating itself. And exactly, I think Indiana and Army are the two stories that are the two bigger stories. When you think of Indiana, I think Champ, you mentioned it last week. You don't think of college football, you think of college basketball or the home of basketball in general. And Army, Navy, and Air Force have been pretty. I mean, except for like a random season here or there, they've been pretty irrelevant when it comes to college football, in terms of being a successful team. The Army Navy game is always going to be a thing. It's been a thing for 100-some years, so it's always it always will be a thing. But when it comes to a year thing, I this is a rare thing. So to see this, that aspect is pretty cool. So I think it's Indiana. Indiana's still undefeated. They got by Michigan today. I know they struggled with it, but it still is Michigan, and it's a Big Ten rivalry. So and they squeaked it out. And I think going forward, looking at their schedule right now. 1 second, my internet's being a little slow right now.
Ohio State in 2 weeks.
Yep, and then Purdue. So I'm let's see. Now you go against one of the big boys. You go against the big boy, the number 2 in the nation. So are you legit? So but I think Indiana and Army. I think the Army one is a kind of a cool story though.
BRF.
I think for me it's Indiana too, just for their lack of football history. I mean, and the funny thing about Indiana, Michael Penix Jr. went there first. Pretty much like the brunt of his injuries were at Indiana before he transferred to Washington and did what he did last year to get drafted. So you might as well say the most notable player they've had in a while was Michael Penix Jr. And I mean, they've had players. I mean, I think their most notable player I remember, believe is Antoine Randall L. Antoine Randall L. is their most notable player that they've had. He was a quarterback there before he made the switch to wide receiver and became what he ultimately became for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Indiana hasn't had too much football success. So to see them doing what they're doing this year, I mean, it's refreshing to have schools like this that can come out of nowhere and make a big splash and make an impact. And I'm intrigued. I'm gonna try to watch the Indiana Ohio State game in 2 weeks. I'm definitely gonna try it because so I guess to all the Ohio State fans who saw the game today and think it's gonna be a cakewalk, Indiana's got nothing to lose coming into that game. They have absolutely nothing to lose. I mean, I get it; they're undefeated. Y'all are the big bad, the Ohio State University. Y'all are the blue bloods. Like y'all are it. And Indiana's got nothing to lose. Like y'all are supposed to beat Indiana. Y'all are still supposed to beat them. So Indiana's coming in that bad boy at house money. So I'm definitely intrigued to see that game in 2 weeks and just kind of see how it transpires. Yeah, like Colorado is definitely the one from like an entertainment standpoint with Shedeur Sanders, with Travis Hunter, with Deion Sanders leading them as a head coach. I mean, now don't get me wrong. I'm glad to see that they are succeeding because I think a lot of people were kind of, I'll just say it. A lot of people were praying on their downfall, and to see them 7-2 now, I believe after the day and the big win they got today, I'm here for it and I'm happy for it. And I hope they can bring that box office into the college football playoff. I'm definitely rooting for them to get there because I want to see them add that level of box office to the playoffs. So I definitely want to see it. But for me, the biggest story are the Indiana Hoosiers, and just it's like the feel good coming out of nowhere story, which is definitely good for college football because it adds to what Flash was talking about with the NIL. Spreading the wealth around as far as talent and creating more parity in college football. So I mean, honestly, you love to see it. So yeah, my biggest story for me is Indiana.
Hey, before I take my turn, shout out to Brandon from the block on the throwdown every Monday and Wednesday. Hey, every Monday the football show. Every Wednesday now that basketball season is out, it's the basketball show. And I can tell you that basketball show can get rather colorful, if you will. So I mean, if you watch it,
Brandon, that episode this past Wednesday, boy, I ain't even watched that much of it. That was one of the nastiest segments I've ever seen in my life.
That was a nasty segment.
That was nasty.
But in the great words of Snoop Dogg, back to the lecture at hand. I think the biggest story as far as social media is concerned will be the Buffs. That's box office. The hype machine is behind them, and now it's all away. But, as far as the biggest story, no bigger story is bigger than I think SMU, because the thing is, like Flash said, now, in the great words of Doc Holliday, now it's legal, but they haven't been on the biggest stage since Eric Dickerson and Craig James left. I mean, they've been to a few bowl games, but it's like what I like to call silent bowl games. Nobody really watches the Hawaii Bowl. You're one of those savants like myself who watch everything. So they haven't really been on the biggest stage where eyeballs are just looking and saying, hey, SMU's going to play. Plus, they're in a huge market as far as Dallas is concerned. People don't realize SMU's in Dallas. So that's definitely a box office within itself. In fact, Skip Bayless and Dale Hansen covered the school. So I think that's bigger than anything, especially if they could end up in the college football playoffs. That's the biggest comeback story ever.
That's if that happens, it's like I said, I've been in a rabbit hole of
biggest comeback in history.
Yeah, for a school and a program, yeah, absolutely. And I've been kind of, look at this thing. As I was saying before we went on the air, I've been on like this rabbit hole of vintage football today, and yeah, to have like an SMU in there as a in Indiana, when they both make the playoffs, like that's, those are two old
powers.
Yeah,
it's like the old guard. It's kind of like, some of those nothing more nothing more colorful than Jim Cornette. PSP. As far as controversial sports, like not PSP. We'll get to that in a minute. But Jim Cornette, how colorful. But look, SMU was one of those teams. It's kind of like one of those urban legends that you used to hear about when you was a kid. You hear about the greatest basketball player like in your city, except it's a national power like an SMU. You heard about SMU. You heard about the stories. I mean, you talk about NIL now. The running joke was Eric Dickerson made more in college than he did as a first-round player in the NFL. That's like for more money, as far as from the LA Rams. Because they want to pay him. But yeah, that's what you heard about. You heard about Craig James. You heard about the Pony Express, one of the best backfields in the nation. You heard about that stifling defense that they had. It was like an urban legend, and it was here one day, and then poof, death penalty, and then it's gone the next. So, and I think that, look, what's going to really end up being a story is not just if they enter the college football playoff, but if they manage to squeak one out, that's a whole nother story. And it's like I said, it's the biggest comeback in the history of college football. Our program was literally burned to the ground. Our homecoming weekend in the fall was celebrated with a soccer game. There was a point where SMU's homecoming game was celebrated with a soccer game. So for them to come back from the ashes of the death penalty, having no football program for 2 straight years, to being irrelevant for decades, to being able to play in bowl games. And they put some good players in the NFL since that time. Emmanuel Sanders was one of the great players that came out of SMU, was a good receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But for them to be on the biggest stage right now, almost, and the thing is, it's almost 40 years to the day where it's almost 40 years to the day where they face the death penalty. Almost 40 years to the day. That would be the greatest comeback story in college football. That if ESPN does not do a piece on this, hey, ESPN, if you do not do a piece on this for the very low price of $500, I will do that story for you.
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, for crying out loud, they did a 30 for 30 on the whole thing.
Yeah, so, but a lot of things with ESPN, and I'm not going to, get too political about, but a lot of things on ESPN, they let slip through the cracks. Like the way and a lot of people were complaining to me, especially back when I was covering the WNBA, is that, look, you got the MVP of the league facing the rookie of the year. Why are they not covering that? Why are we looking at your page and you're the only person talking about Asia Wilson versus Caitlin Clark? A lot of stuff slipped through the cracks with ESPN. But the thing is, for you not to be talking about an SMU put out, I mean, one of the greatest running backs of all time. That was one of the greatest stories in Dallas. And look, remember during the time where they were running Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys was not that good.
No, I guess I don't think people realize how big of a school SMU used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing I can sort of compare it to is like, Notre Dame's still relevant today, but they're not the Notre Dame of,
1990.
Yeah, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. Like you go back over the decades, like it was Notre Dame and everybody else.
Yeah, Notre Dame versus the world.
Yeah, and so, but SMU for a time was, that was big time college football, and again, like you said, it sounds like an urban legend or a myth because, I said like after the death penalty, it was just kind of like, when that was
here one day and it was just gone the next. And like I said, they put out some good players. Like I said, Emmanuel Sanders is the first one that comes to mind. Like I said, he was a good player with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Denver Broncos. And you heard about June Jones. You remember June Jones, BRF, because he was the coach at one time for our Atlanta Falcons.
Oh yeah, I remember Jones too.
Yeah, that run and shoot offense.
Yeah, the run and shoot offense.
Yep, but Hawaii as well.
Yeah, with Hawaii as well, because he was able to take them to their first bowl game in years, and ironically, he took them to the Hawaii Bowl. So, yeah, I believe that this will be them being on the biggest stage is arguably the biggest comeback in NC2A history because of the death penalty. I mean, when you think about a meteoric rise, you think about SMU. They was University of Miami before the University of Miami. When you think about a meteoric rise, that's SMU. When you think about a meteoric fall, that's SMU. But when you think about the gradualness of them coming back up and up and up, them going to a bowl game or two, hell, them going 10-2 just 2 years ago. They went 10-2 just 2 years ago. And them now having the chance to be on the biggest stage, I think that's a bigger story than anything, considering, and like I said, because no story. I mean, we've seen programs go and have probation, get banned for a bowl, things of that nature. But the death penalty, I don't think will ever happen again. It never will, never will, never will. And for them to be the only school in history to get that death penalty is crazy. But for them to come back from that to be on the biggest stage, that's amazing. And I'm so loving this new format on college football because we're able to sit here and talk about these Cinderella stories. And in a few years, the college football playoffs is going to be bigger than March Madness ever was. It's going to be even bigger because it's something about football that gets the gears going, especially if one of these Cinderella teams manage to win the national championship. If Indiana manages to win the national championship, do you realize how much parity that's going to bring to college football?
Well, I think if that happens, I think you're going to see a response from the bigger schools in the aspect of like I think they're gonna lobby for hard contracts.
Well, salary cap.
Yeah. Or not a salary cap because that would benefit the lower schools, but I think you're gonna see like more hard contracts like this whole like which in general I kind of would like to see anyways. The whole hopping I think it'd be better for players in general to like yeah you can go make more money by whatever like almost bar hopping, but if you want to, this is for like the players that are like looking to go to the next level. Like you want to learn a program, you want to learn the game, and hopping from system to system to, and you're just there making money. So I do think if an Indiana or an SMU or something like that wins a title or it gets like dangerously close, don't be shocked if you see these, you know, big SEC schools go like, wait a minute here, I don't like not being at the top of the hill, and then they'll push for hard contracts for these players, because I don't think those programs will go quietly into the night.
Hey, in the great words of Young Jeezy, no loyalty. You jump click to click. So, but hey, here's an interesting question, courtesy of the great PSP, New Jersey Genius. If I don't have a pipe bomb, I know he's going to come out with one. But this is an interesting question, and I couldn't even think of a better question than this. Is it shocking that SMU received a death penalty, but Penn State didn't? Especially, not to get too gory with the details, especially considering the circumstances that Penn State was going through during the tail end of Joe Paterno's career. Is that shocking to y'all? It was shocking to me personally.
I think as sick as Penn State's situation was, they isolated the problem enough to get rid of it. So I guess from that perspective, I wasn't surprised that Penn State didn't get the death penalty. SMU's was just too widespread for them not to get the death penalty because back then, the benefits, the money, all that other stuff, it was illegal then. And they were just doing it at such a widespread level. I mean, the NC2A just kind of came in and they did what they felt they needed to do, and that was just to kind of okay, we're going to see how you feel for a good minute without being able to play any football, basically, or any meaningful football at that. But at the Penn State situation, though, they found, they got down to the problem. They neutralized it basically, and from a professional standpoint, they neutralized the problem, and I think that was that. And it wasn't necessarily from that perspective, and from either perspective, honestly, it wasn't the kid's fault. But from the Penn State perspective, that was something way less out of their control. So I think from that perspective, I think you penalize the people that were doing it, which Jerry Sandusky, got rid of him. You did what you needed to do with him, and you kind of hate it for Joe. You hate it for Joe Paterno that kind of put the legacy that he built that moment in time kind of black marked them a little bit. You hate it. You definitely hate it. But it was kind of one of those situations. They investigated. They did what they needed to do, and I don't think you could. I kind of understand not giving Penn State the death penalty for that situation, just because that's just one of those things that was just more. I don't know. I guess more isolated of an incident. I guess.
I look at it this way: like the death penalty with SMU is like that. What was happening in SMU had to deal with competitive advantage in football.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State was life,
right?
And I to punish everybody else around a horrible human being. I don't think so. That's a different thing.
Yeah. Like it wouldn't have been fair to everybody. It wouldn't have been fair to everybody else in that situation.
This wasn't like Sandusky was like betting on the games and then involving the kids and betting on and doing some kind of competitive advantage or disadvantage or whatever. This was life, and that's something that I think that's why it kind of separates the two, because I don't think that you can do those. And honestly, as awful as the situation that was, and this is going to sound weird, so I'm going to try and say this is Penn State did as good as a job as you could have from treating that situation as decent as they did, and then moving on as a program and as a school. Like I for the most part, you really don't, as big of as Joe Paterno was, you don't hear about Joe Paterno at all. Like he's a forgotten legend when it comes to college football, and in some aspects, deservedly so, because there's a debate whether he knew stuff was going on or not. So, and so the fact that Penn State kind of, they don't acknowledge that era, and that's most of Joe Paterno was their coach for over 50 years.
Oh yeah.
So, like, they've kind of they've done, I think they've done actually a good job of literally eliminating that part of their history and just saying, no, that's where we have moved on from that. And so, and that's another thing that I think Bill O'Brien doesn't get a lot of credit for. Like, Bill O'Brien gets a lot of crap for like his years afterwards, but a lot of people don't remember, like, Bill O'Brien had to follow that up, and he actually did a pretty good job at that school, and doesn't get the credit that he deserves, because there's no way that I would have wanted to follow that up, and he could have just like left and been like, I'm not dealing with this, and he didn't, and he actually, did a really good job keeping that program together and keeping the kids' heads like where they're supposed to be. So, kudos to Brian, to Billy O.
Yeah. And look, and shout out to stay tuned, man. The West Coast. Shout out to you guys, man. Hope it's sunny out there in California. But back to this, look, I'm glad you brought that up, Flash, because it does seem like, look, I remember if you want to be a linebacker, Joe Paterno is going to turn you into a great one. I mean, and the linebackers that he's put in the league was, legendary. Chris, I think, didn't Chris Spielman go to Pitt State?
Spielman, LeVar Arrington,
Courtney Brown.
Chris Spielman was Ohio State.
It was Ohio State, my fault.
But not LeVar Arrington. I think Paul Posluszny with Penn State.
Shane Conlon from the Buffalo Bills. Paul. I think
Paul Posluszny.
Yes, thank you.
Jack Ham was also.
Jack Ham came from Penn State.
Yeah. Jack Ham's Penn State. Yeah,
I did not know that.
He's basically like
linebacker.
Navarro Bowman's Penn State.
Navarro Bowman, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to be a linebacker, you went to Penn State. In fact, he was trying to recruit Jim Kelly to be a linebacker. So,
Tamba Ali and Micah Parsons are both from Penn State as well.
Yes. So it's crazy when you think about that. And he was a very revered coach. I mean,
yes.
And not only that, he beat, and I mean, I think his last national championship, the 86, I think it was the 86 team. He beat the University of Miami. And they was picking wins that they were favored to win that. So for that team to be erased and for that memory to be erased is kind of crazy. And it seems like the coaches of yesteryear, who was all involved with scandal, even Florida State, you don't hear too much about Bobby anymore.
No.
I mean, and the only thing that happened with that school was, they had that cheating scandal with the young men. But you don't really hear about those guys as much as it's kind of sad, but justified. Not so much with Bobby Bowden.
No, Bobby Bowden. No,
not so much with Bobby Bowden, but with Penn State, you don't hear about how legendary Joe Pa was, and it's just like, wow. But rightfully so. You just like, bro, because it's like there's no way that certain things can go on under your watch,
and you don't know
about it for so many years. It's just like, but you got to. I mean, it seems like these legendary coaches have gotten lost in the shuffle. I mean, even Bear Switzer to a certain extent. You don't, when you think about Bear Switzer now, people think about the Dallas Cowboys. You don't necessarily think about Oklahoma. When you talk about Oklahoma, who's the best coach of Oklahoma history? People are going to say, well, Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
So There's a lot of legacy coaches that are forgotten.
I think part of that is I think the way that college football, I talk about being the old school guy and the old head of of kind of the group here, and in our sphere of like podcasters and sports people, I'm kind of like the old crotchety guy that just likes the old ways. But I think part of the reason why we don't hear about this, guys, is because the college football atmosphere has completely changed. And especially recently, and I think the Sandusky thing was a catalyst for that. I think it and then you bring in the NIL and everything, and I spoke about like tradition and everything that has kind of been pushed to the wayside with these super conferences, NIL, and so on and so forth. And I also think that a lot of the coaches, I also think that the coaches, the coach hopping that happened, that's part of, I think, the thing that brought on the NIL. That was a big thing. It's like, well, wait a minute, these coaches can sign these huge, massive contracts and then recruit these kids and then just leave these kids on a dime. So I think the whole coaching legend thing in college in that era, for multitude of reasons, has just been kind of like, yeah, it was like everybody's like, yeah, it existed, but we're just going to put it back here, and we'll mention it every once in a while. But other than that, Bobby Bowden isn't talked about at all. Tom Osborne, guys like that were pillars in the 80s. Bo Schembechler, not mentioned at all. Steve Spurrier,
Howard Snellenberger.
Yeah. Woody Hayes.
They're not talked about as much. I mean,
no.
Even the ones that don't have controversy around them, it seems like they're not talked about as much.
No, it's a weird thing to see the thing that made college football special, which was tradition and legend, to see that kind of just pushed to the wayside. Now, obviously, like the Sandusky thing is different, but I'm just talking about like the actual traditions and stuff like that. That kind of makes me a little sad. That's what made college football kind of special and different from the NFL. And that's kind of sad to see it not mentioned and not talked about enough.
Right. I can definitely agree with you on that. I can definitely agree with you. Let's get into the NFL, man. Look, they had a hell of a game the Baltimore Ravens had a hell of a game this past week against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I must say, man, that was one hell of a game. And here's how you know you're scary as a quarterback. I'm just going to be very, very honest. Here's how you know that you're scary as a quarterback. And you know what I'm about to say, Flash. Remember, I think it was 4th and 5. Remember when Bill Belichick was on his own, I think it was his own 30 when they played Peyton Manning.
Yeah, it was a short out to Kevin Falk on the right side in the flat.
Yes. Thank you.
I remember it.
So this is how you know you are scary as a quarterback. When the opposing coach would rather keep his offense on the field and have 4-down territory damn near the whole game rather than give you the ball back. And that's exactly what Cincinnati was doing nearly the entire game, especially near the end of the game. Like, Lamar, look, you're not getting this ball back.
Yeah. It's kind of it's like the Chiefs Tampa Bay game. Mm-hmm. When they got into overtime and the coin flip, and as soon as it went to the Chiefs, Baker Mayfield like it's over. Like, oh, never mind, we're gonna lose because it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So, and look, I was extremely frustrated watching that Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens game for a multitude of reasons. One, I'm a big Joey Burrow fan. I love Joey B. Like, he's my new. Like, my baby boy is retired now and doing broadcasting, but like my new favorite quarterback to watch is Joe Burrow.
McCoy
what?
McCoy Culkin.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Home Alone. Which, by the way, dude, his nickname should be Home Alone because he is basically on his own. That dude can throw 30 touchdown passes in a football game. The Bengals will find a way to effing lose. It's frustrating. Holy Moses. Anywho, back to the original thing. It was really frustrating to watch because of the lack of like that Cincinnati couldn't stop Baltimore, but also I was going against Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase in fantasy, and I just got torched. Anywho, but watching that game and watching Lamar Jackson. Now, we just spoke about this the week before. If he wins an MVP this year and then wins a Super Bowl, is he creeping into the top whatever? I gotta say, I've never been a big Lamar Jackson fan, but watching that game, boy, has he gotten, he's upped his game even from last year. And that's saying something. And I know that he's got more talent around him and everything now, but like he's coming into the point where he's almost a complete quarterback, where the running is becoming a secondary thing.
Like Steve Young.
Yes, which is you talk about somebody that might be, damn near unstoppable. And this is the thing I've been saying, if the running becomes a secondary thing, and he figures out how to be a really good to great pocket passer, this league's in trouble. And I saw that last night or Thursday night. And I know we're talking about we're going to talk about the MVP in a second here, so I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close anymore. I think Lamar Jackson is starting to pull away with this, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Josh Allen can make a case, but man, he is playing. He is on another like plane of existence right now than I think almost every quarterback in the league. I think the sad part is I think actually Joey B could make a case. It's just the rest of his team stinks, and they don't have the wins to prove it, because what Joey B is doing with that crappy offensive line and the injuries at wide receiver and their lack of a defense, and the fact that he's still just being able to like go toe to toe with guys is pretty impressive. But man, dude, I don't know, man. Yeah, that's exactly. That was going to be my next point, PSP, is that his numbers are like with passer rating, touchdown interception ratio, and then you throw on top of it the rushing yards. He is getting to the this is like almost unanimous, in my opinion, unanimous MVP territory, like 2011 Brady territory. Yeah. Because as long as they win their division and win the number one seed in the AFC, I don't think it's really an argument at this point. Or I mean, I know we're going on week 10?
Week 10.
This is week 10. So I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong, BRF guys? Am I wrong that these kind of separated himself from the pack?
I wouldn't. Is he the clubhouse leader now? Yes.
In the curve.
But I think he's the clubhouse leader. But I think, shout out to my boy Kieran. Him being a Steelers fan, he brought this up. The Steelers are 7-1 in their last 8 games against the Baltimore Ravens. He needs to drop them at least once this year and win the AFC North to really lock it up. Because I think if he wins the AFC North and continues on this trajectory with his numbers, he's definitely creeping into unanimous MVP air. He's definitely creeping into it. But then again, you got Josh Allen, who, for all intents and purposes, Buffalo Bills are going to win the AFC East, and he's not turning the ball over no more than Lamar Jackson is right now, and putting up really good numbers with far less talent around him. So I think he's the clubhouse leader. It's not a lock yet, because, like I said, I do think Baltimore needs to win that division to really help Lamar cinch it up. They really do. If Pittsburgh wins the North and they beat Lamar once, if not both times, because they haven't played each other yet. So if they beat him once, if not both times, and Josh Allen continues to put up the numbers he's putting up, and Baltimore wins their division, going away with ease, then we're talking like right neck and neck. So I don't think it's over yet because there's still football left to be played. In particular, divisional games and seeding is going to play a pretty big role in this. But I will say this though. Lamar at this trajectory is creeping into possibly top 10 quarterback season of all time if he keeps this up.
Mm-hmm.
To make
because it's the totality of everything with the passing yards, the passing touchdowns, the lack of turnovers, and then the rushing yards and touchdowns to go along with that. So we're creeping in the top 10 QB season of all time if he keeps this up.
One thing that might hurt him is this. This might hurt him in the eyes of the voters. Because if Derrick Henry is to score over 20 touchdowns and go for over 2,000 yards, they might use that to say, hey, you have another MVP on your team. Is it really you or is it, the Derrick Henry effect? But they could use that in order to try to hurt you. But because they did the same thing with Brock Purdy just last year.
Yeah, but
they did that with him.
I don't think that would be an argument, like a really negative argument. I think because we've already seen Lamar put up great stats and have MVP seasons. I think it would be an argument on why, more so it would be why Josh Allen deserves it more than him at this point of view, at the end of the season. When you look at their numbers, BRFs right now, mind you, Lamar's played one extra game. So he's got 700 yards more passing than Josh Allen right now. 7 more touchdown passes. Now, again, he's played one more game, 300 more yards rushing, and he's actually got one less rushing touchdown. But and he's completing almost 70% of his passes. He's at 69.1, where Josh Allen is at 64.1. But I think you're right. If Pittsburgh wins the division, I think then it goes. And Josh Allen keeps playing the way he is, and they win their division. Then I think you're right. I think it's Josh Allen's, and I think don't underestimate everybody thought Josh Allen was going to fall on his face this year vote for MVP, and also we've already given Lamar 2. Let's give Josh Allen 1 vote too. That might be a factor as well. So I'm I don't know. I'm kind of, but if he keeps playing the way he is, he just seems like he's in the zone. Like, that's my thing. He's just in the zone.
Yeah, all right. Hey, can't argue there, man, because Lamar, and look, send a special thank you letter back to Athens, because Lamar Jackson, you took my offense coordinator, and I think that's why we're struggling right about now, because Todd Monken, got to give him a lot of credit for bringing the best out of Lamar Jackson at this point, man. Turn him into turning in another MVP season last year. This is the most high-scored offense of the season right now. I mean, they might even have a chance to break the scoring record. So, but you got to take this into consideration. Hey, this window is wide open, regardless of Kansas City or not, because that's the team you have to beat. But you got to realize this: after this year, that window might be closing up on you. So you might want to be mindful and win that game. So you got to be mindful. Even with Kansas. Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Let's say the Kansas City Chiefs offense starts being the normal Kansas City Chiefs offense that we get, and the Kansas City Chiefs go undefeated in the regular season.
No. I know where you're going.
No.
Because his numbers ain't gonna be up there this year. His numbers are not gonna be up there this year. No.
That's something to think about. Let me do some digging.
Just saying.
In the great words of someone famous, it's time to start digging.
It would be the third. Because I know, Champ, I watched your video on TikTok today about whether the Kansas City Chiefs can go undefeated this year or not. It's not just about three-peat at this point. It would only be the third undefeated regular season ever, besides.
Look, I'm gonna just be real. Unless he reels off damn near 30 touchdowns to no interceptions on this last stretch of the season, I don't see that happening. I don't.
He's got to play. We know Patrick Mahomes can play lights out, but he's got to literally he's got to zone out like we've never seen him zone out before.
Because he already has 11 touchdowns to 9 picks right now. But he's not putting up that MVP type performance that normally an undefeated quarterback would normally put up.
I know.
When you saw Peyton Manning undefeated, those numbers were lights out. When you saw Tom Brady undefeated, those numbers were lights out.
Let's say he's
Mahomes undefeated. I've been around a long time. This is the damn ugliest undefeated team I have ever seen. They are winning ugly. This was the prettiest win I've seen thus far last week.
I know, but look, I've said it before. I said they are at a point now where they are so good at winning, they don't have to blow everybody out. Again, I'm at the point I just want Brady talk about the playing against the early 2000s Colts and Manning, and they had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, and basically Belichick would just say look, we're not going to stop them, but when we get to the red zone, it's just the bend but don't break. And Kansas City is so good, their coaching and everything is so good, and Mahomes is so good. They're just look, we just got to keep it close and then just give it to Patrick Mahomes in the end, and that's it. I don't even think it's not about stats anymore with them. It's literally just about winning, and that's scary. That's when a franchise has gotten, again, as a Patriots fan, when you've gotten to that point where your franchise is so where you can just be we don't really care about stats. We're just going to win. That's it. That's a scary spot to be in. And I'm just saying, let's say, look at his stats right now. He's completing 70% of his passes. Yes, he's 11-9 for touchdowns and interceptions. Let's say he ends the season with 30-13, and they're undefeated.
That's a question. That's another question. That's
I'm still saying no, but
that's still another thing, because you got to hope for a lot of other guys who are having great seasons to go into a slump, which I don't see happening at this point. You got to hope for some slumps in order for that conversation to rise. Because right now, the reason why I even brought up that video, and that goes back to what I said about ESPN, them dropping the ball, that undefeated streak is not even being talked about right now.
Because it's so ugly.
It's not even when Minnesota, when they was undefeated, it was being talked about. Every time you looked at a team and they was undefeated. And look at the Denver Broncos when Peyton Manning was on his last leg, even when they were undefeated, and people was talking about, well, the offense is 6-5, but the offense is 6-5, but the defense is 11-0.
I just want to point out, though, he's beaten Lamar Jackson head-to-head already in the opener this year. He's beaten Joey B the following week. And he's got Josh Allen coming up in week 11 in Buffalo.
I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I don't really worry about head-to-head stuff like that when it comes to MVP. I don't.
I'm not saying, okay. I'm just kind of throwing, again, if they go 17-0, it's not just 16-0. It's going to be the first 17-0 team ever. And let's say DeAndre Hopkins has a real, revitalizes his career. which is, he just needed a top flight quarterback and I just, man, because to me, he's still the best quarterback in the league. And I don't even think it's close. Like, I don't think anybody is in his sphere at all. And again, if he like if they run the table and he gets 30 touchdowns and only throws like maybe 3 more picks and they're undefeated and they get the number 1 seed,
the conversation to have, but I don't think
I don't know. Oh. All right. I'm just gonna sit on this and let this stew. And in about like 2 months, we'll revisit this.
We'll revisit.
And I'm gonna say because there's something to if you're Baltimore, and let's say Lamar still keeps putting up numbers, but they go, 12-5.
They're still going to put
and they don't win their division.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Them not winning the division hurt. Them not winning the division would hurt more. But we still got to look at what are the numbers he's ending with at the end of the season, though.
Yeah. I know. I'm just kind of floating.
It's a stew.
I'm stirring the pot. I'm being my Pat McAfee self right now.
Did you see that clip on College Game Day? Speaking of Pat McAfee, the College Game Day clip.
Let's not do that. I'm trying not to get banned too early from this app. We just got here.
When Champ said that I'm basically our Pat McAfee, I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, let's not.
I did see that.
Let's keep it PG-13, not rated R. If y'all don't mind.
That's a classic. I'm not going to speak on what Pat did. But Pat, that is the classic guy where you've ascended to I can do whatever I want territory. You are
basically, what are you gonna do? Fire me?
Like he's like ascended to like Family Guy, South Park, that kind of level of like can do whatever the heck he wants, and everybody's just like everybody's gonna everybody's gonna high five him and just go like whatever. So. I love it because that's kind of my style. So,
all right, thanks a lot, Nine Gorilla on former Sports for You podcast out on the West Side, man. Silk face.
Did he just call you silk face?
Hey, that's a nice name. Hey, look, that's a nice name to what my mom gave. Remember, I told you, man. My mom said I look like an elf, so just be free. So.
Hey, I said something the other day, Champ, because like I said, I cut mine and I was just like, hey, from one milk dud to another, man, we salute,
Here's an interesting question. People be talking about me with the pipe bombs, but PSP, hey man, let me tell you something. PSP, he may not be talking on the show, but I'm gonna tell you, he's a big part of the show. It's Jada Daniels. If Jada Daniels beats Pittsburgh. Is he in
the MVP combo?
Yeah, he is right now. He just
I
think he gets votes. Like I think the Rookie of the Year is over and done with. Like that's not even a question anymore, unless he gets injured or something. Which I hope not. Excuse me. If he beats Pittsburgh, to me, right now, I would say it's Josh Allen in no particular order. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Jaden Daniels as your 4 MVP candidates.
Well, yeah, because of Joe Burrow's and the Cincinnati Bengals record,
and because as much as I love the fact that Jared Goff is quietly just doing his thing. He's not like it's weird. It's because of that running game. That's a little bit. It's more about the running game there, but still, I think those are the 4. I think Jaden Daniels is in that top 4 MVP right now, and I think it's those 4 guys with Joey B right on the outside at 5 and Jared Goff at 6.
You want me to be honest with you? And I've been covering a certain sport all year. You know what I'm about to say? I've been covering the WNBA all year.
Oh, I
I compare, huh?
I thought you were going to say cricket.
No. Okay. I've been covered. What am I going to do with you? But I can't even damn concentrate because but
whoo, buddy.
So as y'all know, I've been covering the WNBA all year, right? So I compared this to like, you know, and I know this is like unrelated, but it's kind of is. It's like the Caitlin Clark effect. Everybody was campaigning for her to be an MVP candidate. Unfortunately for her, Asia Wilson was just breaking every damn record in the league. And, you know, although she was a big factor on her team that was winning and getting them back to the playoff, which they had not been for almost 9 years. I mean, it was Asia Wilson that was just breaking every WNBA record in the league. And I think that's what's going to happen this year, even if, you know, Washington, unfortunately, if they win a bunch of games, the voters are going to look at, okay, yeah, you're doing very, very good. You're bringing one of the most legendary franchises back to the front of prominence. But when you look at Lamar, when you look at Jared Goff, when you look at Derrick Henry, those guys are doing it up even better than you are, and you may not necessarily have their numbers. So I think we're looking at something similar to what happened in the WNBA this year with Caitlin Clark. It's like, okay, you brought your team back to prominence. With you on this team, you're very, very valuable, and you don't have an offensive line or the talent that these guys have. But unfortunately, these guys' numbers are way more astronomical than yours, and your numbers are not going to be your numbers are not in that same echelon as theirs. Therefore, although it's a good season for a rookie and nobody expected anything from you, but it's like, no, we can't give you that MVP because your numbers are not as astronomical as the other one. That's what I compare it to. And another big question from PSP is Jaden Daniels having a better rookie year than CJ Stroud? Yes, I do think he's having a better year than CJ Stroud did last year. The only person that he has right now, well, the only two people that he has right now is Scary Terry and Brian Robinson. When you really look at who all CJ Stroud had, he had Nico Collins. He had Tank Dell. He had a pretty good running back. And he had that defense. And he had the defense was top 11.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about like the talent around him. Yeah, the defense was
talented. Nico Collins is talented.
Yeah, that's true. But the narrative going into that season with Houston was that he had no talent. Like, you know, we didn't know Nico Collins was going to be Nico Collins until last year. Like, that was kind of like we didn't know Houston had this talent. Everybody kind of like it just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Like, and so I don't think it's as simple as just, well, he has this like talent around him. Like, you know, Scary Terry's been like a great wide receiver in the league, or, you know, for a while. We've just been waiting for him to get a really good quarterback. Washington's defense has been above average for a decent while now, even though they've lost pieces. You know, so it's not like it's like I'm not there yet. I think Jaden Daniels has had more moments than CJ Stroud right now. Like, you know, you have the Hail Mary and you have other moments. I think, like, you know, highlight reel moments of like, but I as far as a better season, hold up. I'm not there yet. And look, and I'm the guy that I'm rooting for him because I was, you know, that was my hot take for the year, that they were going to win second in the NFC East, and they might win the whole division at this point. So, you know, I'm not there yet. But he keeps going. Sure. I think so. It's a possibility.
BRF.
Oh, that's the question we're talking about. Is he having a better rookie year than CJ? Yeah, I'm with Flash. I wouldn't go there yet, but he does have more he's had a flashier season, if I can say that. He's had a flashier season because I mean the Monday night game against Cincinnati, and of course the Hail Mary against against Chicago. But I mean, just I will say this though, the accuracy. I mean, the accuracy is definitely better compared to CJ, even though CJ is a very accurate quarterback. Jaden Daniels has been much more accurate, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, he's been basically flirting with 70% all year. I won't go there yet as far as better rookie year, but he's definitely knocking on the door. Jaden Daniels being 24 and having like 55 starts in college is helping him out tremendously too.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Jay Will from Stay Tuned.
But I'll say he's having a flashier season than what CJ Stroud did last year. Jaden Daniels, definitely has the highlight. He's got the highlight reel moments. He's having a flashier season than CJ, but I won't say better yet. But he's knocking on the door.
Okay, that is fair. But speaking of MVPs, you heard me talk about him earlier. Derrick Henry, he's on pace to rush for over 2,000 yards again, and possibly even break Eric Dickerson's record. Now, if he does that, he'll be the only running back in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards twice in his career. Not even Barry Sanders, not Eric Dickerson. Nobody did that. So I got to ask y'all this, man. Look, I have to ask y'all because I was struggling with this myself. Is Derrick Henry top 10 all time if he ends up rushing for 2,000 yards a second time? And pipe bomb, who would you put him over?
I'll start, and it's time to set some people off for this one.
Uh-oh.
Derrick Henry's top 5 if he goes for 2,000 again. He's top 5 if he goes for 2,000 again. 2,000 again. We have yet to say 2,000 again for any running back. You can make the case he's top 5 if he puts another 2,000 out. Because you also have to look at the length of time he's done this in. This is still only year 10 for him. This is only year 10. I think this is only year 10 for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's still doing this, like, I mean, let's see. Let me look. Okay, you got Walter, you got Barry, you got Jim, you got Emmett, you got LT. Who else you got? You got Marshall. You got Marshall. You got Emmett. You got Eric Dickerson.
Adrian Peterson.
You got AP. All right. So okay. All right. I think okay. Okay. My list goes Walter, Barry, Jim. Top 5. Okay. Walter, Barry, Jim. Lord have mercy. Emmett was in my top 5, but I'm taking him out. I'm looking at LT and AP. So
him over one of those two?
Not yet.
We're talking about if he runs for 2,000.
He's close. He's closer to AP than he is to LT, but he's in consideration. He's in consideration. I think he's in that 6-7 area. He's in that 6 to 7 area if he gets 2,000 again. I think oh gosh, y'all gonna kill me for saying this. I think some fans might. I don't care. I think he's already better than Emmitt Smith. I think Oh gosh, I think he's. Oh gosh, don't kill me if I say I think he's already better than Marshall Faulk, but I think he's already better than Marshall Faulk.
Oh no,
Dude, I kind of do.
Hey.
He's like right there. He's like right there. He's right there, bro. He's right there, bro. He's right there. He's right there.
Man, see, I think Marshall Faulk is so. I agree. I'm sorry I missed your comment. Who it was? It just flashed up. Let me look real quick. That he's already top 10.
Yeah, he is for me. He is for me too.
Really?
Yes, he's already top 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he's like 9-10 now. Like backside of it.
I think he's surpassed Marcus Allen.
Oh yeah.
Like I think he's past Marcus Allen. Look, I don't like saying that. I love Marcus Allen. He's one of my favorite running backs of all time. I just think he's past him. I think he's past O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
I think he is in the realm of Emmitt Smith right now. I can't put him over AP, Marshall Faulk.
I can put him over Eric Dickerson.
I can put him over. I just about to say I can put him over Dickerson.
I can put him over Eric Dickerson.
I'm having a hard time. I was gonna say I have a hard time putting him over Earl Campbell, but honestly, they're very similar backs, and Henry's done it for longer.
Exactly.
So I have to put him over Earl Campbell. I don't like doing that either because he's one of my favorite running backs of all time as well. But I think he's over Eric Dickerson. I think you can make the case that he's already over Emmitt Smith, but I can't put, and I think he's past Marcus Allen. But
Why do you put him over Marcus Allen?
What?
Why do you put him over Marcus Allen? I gotta ask that.
It's not by a lot. It's not by like a ton because Marcus Allen had a really long career.
Yeah. I think the reason why I asked you that, I would put him over Marcus Allen, but simply because of this. We never got to see Marcus Allen be the number one guy for a long period of time. We got to see it for a short period of time when he was in Los Angeles. We got to see it in a short period of time when he was in Los Angeles. You know, we got the chance to see him rush for almost.
He was the main guy in Kansas City, but that was the end of his career, though.
That was the end of his career, though.
No, he was in the backfield with Barry Ward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so he was sharing the backfield with those guys. So the thing is, the fact that he shared the backfield in in Los Angeles, in Oakland, that wasn't his fault. God rest his soul. Al Davis did particularly like Marcus Allen because of his personality. He was bigger than the team. Yeah. So, yeah, because when people start saying Marcus Allen and the Los Angeles Raiders, that's when Al Davis kind of had a problem with it. But I digress. But the reason why I would put him over Marcus Allen, Derrick Henry, is simply because of this. He was the main guy for a long period of time than Marcus Allen. And we got to see him carry the load a hell of a lot longer.
That's true.
And Marcus Allen, during the back end of his career, after that Super Bowl and that MVP season, the year after that, he failed to rush for over 1,000 yards for the remainder of his career.
That's true. He was more of a goal line specialist than City too.
He's one of the best goal line backs of all time.
In fact, I honestly, like, if people talk about how good Marshawn Lynch is, like at the goal line for like 1 yard. If there's a running back in NFL history that I want to get 1 yard, Marcus Allen is at the top of that list. So, but I agree. And also, if you look at it too, and this might be a little controversial, but when he was in Oakland / Los Angeles and he was sharing the backfield with a certain Bo Nose, he wasn't the best back on the field. That was Bo Jackson. Yeah. When Derrick Henry's on the field and has been on the field for whatever team, he has been clearly the best back on the field. Like, there's been no question. So I think as much as I also do think that if Marcus Allen does come up in a different era. Like a lot of people don't know how great of a receiver Marcus Allen was too as a running back.
Yeah,
he was just in a different era. So I do think that if he, and I'm making a hypothetical argument, but I do, yes, I everything you said, Champ, I completely agree. That's why I put him over Marcus. But I think he's in Emmett's sphere, and that's it. But and I'm kind of an AP hater a little bit. So but I think he's in that Emmett AP realm right now, like that area. But I can't put him over. I can't put him over Falk. I can't put him over Barry. Obviously, I can't put him over LT, Walter, or Jim Brown.
Is he better than OJ? Real quick.
I already said that. I think he's better than OJ. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
BRF, what do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely surpass OJ.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think OJ deserves to be in that top 10 discussion, regardless of whatever you think about all the other stuff.
I think OJ is still a top 10 running back of all time, just for the standpoint of the amount of damage he did and the quickness he did it in.
Yes. Yeah. And to Trey Robinson, so you said that AP can't catch. Yeah, that was always kind of a weakness, but at the same time, like it wasn't such a weakness where, you know, I would still put I still am not going to put Henry over him yet.
Adrian Peterson sometimes with certain situations, if a guy has a certain weakness, and AP was his ability to catch out of the backfield, but he was such a dominant runner. It's one of those where it's just like, we're still going to give you the ball in crunch time, regardless of whether it's running or receiving. Okay, you're not the greatest receiving. We're still going to give you the ball in crunch time. So it's almost like, okay. Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay. You're not the greatest receiver of the ball. You're still going to get the ball.
Like,
so, I mean.
From what I understand and what I've read and just being a football guy, AP was the closest. None of us are old enough to know what Jim Brown really was like when he played. But from what I understand, like AP was essentially like Jim Brown 2.0. Like he had as much quickness as Barry Sanders. It just looked different. And on top of it, he had the size and power, which essentially was what Jim Brown was. So and AP again, and I'm an AP hater. I'm a Packer guy, so I'm an AP hater. And I always just never liked him in general. I don't know why. I just don't. There's certain players.
I mean, even though they might not have beat y'all a lot, he killed y'all a lot.
Yeah. So yeah. So, but I do think that Derrick Henry is right in that sphere. I do. I really do. I think he's right around there. But when you start talking top 5, like Marshall Faulk, I don't think he ever gets the credit he deserves. Marshall Faulk would be if he just would have played wide receiver, he would have been a multi-time Pro Bowl wide receiver. Like that's how good he was, on top of being a Hall of Fame running back. So like to get there, man, to crack that top 5 over Marshall, Barry, LT, Walter, and Jim Brown. That's a tough top 5 to crack. That's a real top 5. That one I don't know.
Yes, indeed. BRF, do you have anything to add, brother?
I feel where Flash is coming from as far as Marshall Faulk, and trust me, I think, because I mean, if you're looking at, you know, greatest all-purpose backs of all time, I mean, you're looking at Walter Payton, you're looking at Barrett, you're looking at Walter Payton, you're looking at LaDainian Tomlinson, and you're looking at Marshall Faulk, in my opinion, as far as like greatest all-purpose backs ever in terms of doing it over a long stretch, over a career. So I mean, most definitely. But I mean, but even still though, like, even though he might not be past him in terms of just the stock, you know, of his career. 2,000 yards 2 times is definitely a good step in the right direction.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and when I say that it's that it's going to be. I'm not trying to discredit what Henry's done, like what he's
Oh
done.
no! Oh, I know that. Oh, most definitely, I know.
Like how he was sharing a backfield that he shouldn't have been the first couple of years of his career, by the way. And considering what he's done and how many yards and the stats he's put up. And again, the fact that he's this old, and I know that sounds funny because he's not really that old, but running back year-wise he is, and he's still doing what he's doing, and he's still got the speed and everything else at that size.
A bowling ball.
Quick. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Real quick before we go to the next segment, because these are going to be 2 quick ones. What do y'all think about Saquon Barkley's hurdle? I think it's one of the more athletic players I've seen in history. So,
the thing about the hurdle that there's a little detail about the hurdle that no one's really talking about with that hurdle that really makes it stand out for me. I mean, well, for one, the spin off of the second guy that tried to tackle him to set it up was crazy. But it's the fact that he did the hurdle. If there was nobody in like relative distance to tackle him, he lands that perfectly and he keeps running. That's what makes that play even more spectacular. He might take it to the house after that play if like nobody was in like a breathing distance of catching him, because like he landed like perfectly on his feet and he was taking off to get more yards, but they just happened to be there to bring him down. But is it the craziest play I've ever seen? No. But is it one of the craziest plays I've ever seen athletically? Oh, absolutely. But it's not the craziest I've ever seen.
He's the closest thing to Barry Sanders that I've ever seen.
I like that. I like that. I do like that.
Including Shady McCoy?
Yeah, including Shady McCoy.
As quick as Shady McCoy was, he wishes he had Saquon Barkley shiftiness and quickness.
Yeah, I think Saquon is again the closest thing we've ever seen to what Barry could do when it came to just the quick stop on a dime. I mean,
the vision he has.
The old school Madden joystick, like it shouldn't be physically possible type stuff. To me, in my opinion, and just because, again, Packer guy had to go against Barry, twice a year for a decade. Anytime he got the football, you literally tensed up. And Saquon is getting into that territory where he's so athletic and so dynamic that if he just touches the football, you just whether you're a fan of him or not, or a fan of the Eagles or not, you just go. And in my opinion, Barry Sanders is the best running back I've ever seen while I've been alive. In my 42 years on this earth, I've never seen a better running back than Barry Sanders, and I don't think I ever will. And maybe that's a strong statement, but that guy was something. We'll never see another Barry Sanders. But that hurdle was on top of the fact that it's going to be one of the most athletic plays on a side kind of thing. It's going to be memed for the rest of eternity. So it was one of the most. Have you seen the sideline reaction? His sideline reaction?
Yes, dude, I have.
Mm-hmm.
They just the whole sideline is just like. It's like when you see somebody like posterize somebody in the NBA, and the whole bench just goes nuts. It was. You saw it was like you also ever see when Larry Bird was playing the Atlanta Hawks back in the 80s, and he was like tearing up the Hawks and calling his shots, and he's going by the bench and he's just draining shots, and the Atlanta Hawks bench is just like geeking out because Bird is just.
You know what? And I never forget Dominique Wilkins told every last one of you Blakes are going to get fined tomorrow for that.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to make every last one of you get fined.
You watch those highlights of the whole Atlanta Hawks bench. If you go back and watch, like even the opposing team, who are they playing? Help me out here. Who are
it was the Atlanta Hawks. It was the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, it was the Atlanta Hawks, and they did. The thing was, what was so funny about that is later on in his career, even the Lakers was doing that.
Yeah,
it's like no, because it's just like they cringe, but it's like. No.
But that's if you go and watch the Saquon hurdle, you watch what I forgot who the Eagles were playing, but even the other team was just like ooh, like you shouldn't be able to do that. That's not fair. Like and so that's cool. That's a highlight. That's something that
I think they were playing when they were playing the Jaguars, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was Jacksonville. Yeah,
Jaguars. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, I this is be honest, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. No, but it's up there.
Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, it's definitely up there.
Yeah, it's up there. Real quick. Hey, we all saw Dennis Allen get fired this past week, man. So I gotta ask this question, man. Real quick before we go to the next segment. Who should the Aints hire as their next head coach?
Oh God. I ain't even made it that far. I honestly don't know.
Ben Johnson.
If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm not touching the New Orleans Saints.
Either Ben Johnson or either that, or if you're looking for a coach because he's been trying to become a head coach, I wouldn't recommend it. But call UCLA and see if you can get an interview with Eric Bieniemy. I wouldn't recommend it as far as if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I would not take that job. But I would definitely, if I'm the New Orleans Saints right now, I would definitely give him a call. But Ben Johnson, Eric Bieniemy at this point, and also a dark horse. Hey, look, he just had a big victory tonight. And, he coached in the NFL before. And shit, see if Lane Kiffin would like to come back and coach. Worth a try.
I mean,
you ain't got nothing right now.
I think I've got a couple candidates right now. I mean, Ben Johnson's the hot guy. But everything I've read, though, and what Schefter's reported, like, he doesn't want to leave. Like, he's happy. Like, he wants to finish this, not to take a line away from the WWE. He wants to finish the story in Detroit. Like, he doesn't want to leave. Like, he feels like they're building something insanely special in Detroit. And PSP said it. That was the next guy that I was going to mention. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, deserves another shot after the year he's done with Jaden Daniels. Not that I think he would take it, but the greatest coach of all time is still sitting out there, and he has said he still wants to coach.
He is not. He is not taking New Orleans.
I'm just saying,
anybody that can handle that situation and turn it into a good situation
could be him.
Has to be Bill Belichick.
Yeah. You got another guy would be Joe Brady out of Buffalo, their OC. You got a couple others. I mean, the big guy is Ben Johnson. Everybody's going to want Ben Johnson. I just don't think he leaves. That's the problem. So right now, who I think they hire, I could see Cliff Kingsbury in New Orleans. That smells correct to me. I wouldn't take that job with a 10-foot pole though. If I was, you did. It's a mismanaged. It's been a mismanaged cap team for as long as I can remember. I wouldn't trust bringing along a young quarterback. You got some talent there. I don't know. I wouldn't touch it. If I was Ben Johnson, that's not where I'm going.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
If you are Ben Johnson, of the teams that could possibly have an opening, where would you go, if anywhere?
Of the teams that could possibly have an opening,
where Oakland, because I refuse to say Las Vegas. I would say that you have the Jets.
Hell no.
I'm throwing out the teams that would.
No, I know what you're saying, but
Yeah,
if I'm Ben Johnson, no.
The Saints.
If the Jets stay offensively as they are constructed, I would honestly think about it.
If
That means that yeah, exactly. That means he stays and Devontae Adams stays. You can't help but to think.
Out of there. I don't want him anywhere near that football team.
I don't want him near it either, but I'm like,
what about Cleveland?
Yeah.
I think Kevin Stefanski, I think he ends up staying.
Okay.
I think they end up retaining him, especially after, they've been having some good seasons with him. I think they'd be crazy to fire Kevin Stefanski at this point. I wouldn't do it.
Throwing, what about Jacksonville?
Intriguing. Very intriguing.
I'm trying to do a segue right now. That's why.
Very intriguing.
I'm trying to do a segue.
It's very intriguing.
That'll be a good one. I think Jacksonville. I think if anybody can revive Trevor Lawrence's career and turn him into something special, would be Ben Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was. Jared Goff was basically left for dead in Detroit. Let's just keep it all the way 100. His career was. He was essentially okay. We don't want you anymore. You took us to a Super Bowl. We're gonna grab Matthew Stafford, who's a hell of a lot more talent. You're being sent to Detroit to die.
He was the bag of chips in that deal.
Yeah.
So he was the same, like when you say, I'll give you this in a bag of chips. He was the bag of chips.
So, yeah, he was basically sent there to die. And Ben Johnson, basically, him being the great offensive mind that he was, helped him pretty much keep his career afloat and having some of the best seasons of his career.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
If you're Ben Johnson, and let's say you have a choice between Oakland and Jacksonville, and Oakland was willing to go get whoever in the draft, are you doing that? Or are you going to Jacksonville and trying to revive Trevor Lawrence?
I'm still going to Jacksonville. I'm still going to Jacksonville because they have Brian Thomas and Vegas doesn't. Because I think Brian Thomas is a beast and a future superstar in the National Football League. I'm going to Jacksonville for him alone.
Yeah. I also think Oakland, Las Vegas, whatever, is a very unstable franchise in general.
You know what? I'm going to Jacksonville. I'm running to Jacksonville because the thing is this. Say what you will about the AFC South, but although C.J. Stroud is there and this Houston team is talented, that division is still wide open. It's still winnable.
Yes,
you ain't winning in the AFC.
You're a good coach. You're a good coach in one or two big free agent moves from making that a 3-horse race.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm not finna go out there because I gotta face extremely good coaching. I gotta face Andy Reid twice a year. I gotta face Sean Payton twice a year. Then I gotta turn right back around and face Harbaugh twice a year. Hell no, I ain't doing it. So I'm going to Jacksonville.
I agree. I just wanted to throw that out there and see.
So speaking of Jacksonville, and this is fresh off the presses from my guy Flash and BRF, by the way. You got to give credit where credit's due to my two favorite writers. What is wrong with Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams? Flash, you have the floor.
Okay. Trevor Lawrence, I think I can make a case. I think the case is he has had such a turbulent first 5 years of his career, 5 years, that and so much inconsistency that I'm kind of given the dude a pass. I just don't think it's a stable franchise. Now, we just spoke about this. If I'm Jacksonville, I throw the tank and the sink and the Army and the Navy and everything at Detroit and Ben Johnson to bring him into Jacksonville and give him the reins. I still think he can be turned around. There's just something wrong with this coaching staff. I'm going to say the same thing with Caleb Williams. But the difference is like when I look at some film with Caleb Williams is missing open wide receivers. How can you tell me that DJ Moore, who has been a top wide receiver in this league right now for the last, I don't know how many years, with bad quarterback play, is basically an irrelevant receiver in Chicago right now? Like, he's missing open receivers. Like, we're getting to the point where, like, DJ Moore is getting to the point where he doesn't even want to be on the field, it seems like. Now, I know that thing. I think that thing where he walked off the field was overblown because he stepped out of bounds. And I think he knew he couldn't even be in the play anymore. But when it comes to Caleb Williams, I think, like this is – Jaden Daniels is making this look bad because Caleb has way more talent around him than Jaden does. And Caleb seems to, again, he's got, to me, I look at him, he's not settled, which either means he doesn't trust his offensive line or he doesn't trust the people around him, which he should because all these guys are veterans, or he doesn't trust what he's seeing. He has happy feet. And you can't tell me that Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and all these veterans don't know where they're going. And it screams more that Caleb Williams is the one that's at fault than it does Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, to me, I think he's just been in an unstable situation. And I don't think Doug Peterson, I don't think Doug Peterson was, I thought he was the guy to turn around that franchise. And after the whole mess of Urban Meyer, and it seemed like it was on that way, but it seems like he just can't get a cohesive, they don't play as a team for some reason when I see Jackson. They can't finish games. They play inconsistent one half, and then they play great another half. Trevor Lawrence can still throw the ball and sling it everywhere. It's just the talent doesn't seem to mesh to what they're trying to do. They need somebody that can take a system and fit those players to their system. That's why if I'm Jacksonville, I throw everything I can at Ben Johnson and get him in there. Everything. Especially with the running backs that Jacksonville has. I think you could turn around that offense and that team pretty quickly in that division if you got the right coach in there. Caleb Williams looks like he's running scared, and I don't know why. I don't know if I don't know if he trusts the offensive line, but honestly, do we really trust the Chicago Bears when it comes to a coaching staff? I just don't think so. I think the coach stinks. But I also think Caleb Williams is at fault too. Like he's missing open receivers. So I think they both need new coaching. In fact, if I was either team, I would throw the everything and go get Ben Johnson.
I would rather see Ben Johnson go to Chicago if they let Matt Eberflus go. I would much rather see him go to Chicago. I feel like, see, even though with Jacksonville, you have Trevor Lawrence, you have you have Travis Etienne, you have Brian Thomas, who I think is going to be a stud in the league. There's something about Chicago and just how stacked, how many weapons they have offensively with DJ Moore, with Rome Odunze, with Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift in the backfield, who's been playing better ball as of late in his own right. I think with Caleb Williams we kind of came into it like talking about the Chicago Bears offensive line kind of being the weak link of the offense anyway, and it's kind of showed itself to fruition, and I think it's kind of sped his clock up, and I think that has something to do with the fact that he's missing open targets and just kind of because for a little while it looked like he was, even though he's playing less of competition, you could kind of see the offense was starting to flow a little bit, but now it's kind of like taking a step back, and it's kind of taking a step back, and it's basically a result of running into teams that can pressure him take advantage of that week of the offensive line not being as good and speeding his clock up. So I think what Caleb Williams is just, I think it's like the offensive line, and it's just kind of speeding them up, make throws. You know what I'm saying? Take those throws before he's ready to make the throws, as far as the receivers completing their routes and all that, and missing these open guys. And but Trevor, I feel like even with the stability issues with the Jacksonville franchise, I still feel like Trevor Lawrence, to a certain extent, it's like you would think him kind of, being, the veteran, one of the veterans there now, to be able to kind of like find something to kind of hold it together, hold it in place, to at least still, be a competitive franchise. Because I'm sorry, in the AFC South, you should be competing in that division, because Houston's underachieved and Indianapolis is like a mid squad right now. So you should be right there.
Yeah.
So I just think like Jacksonville is just definitely one of those teams that are just really hard to kind of gauge, because I mean they do have pieces in Jacksonville. I mean, and even when you look at the defense, I mean you re-sign Josh Hines Allen. I mean, you re-sign him. He was basically the face of your defense. You re-sign him. It's not like they don't. And Trayvon Walker, who's like he's really taken a leap into what people thought he was going to be. He had 10 sacks last year. He's already got 6.5 this year. He's taking that step to being, one of the faces of that defense as well. So, I mean, it's not like they don't have players down there. They got players. It's just, I'm thinking with Jacksonville. I think, though I would like to see Ben Johnson go to Chicago, but I really feel like, am I crazy to say the quicker fix would be if he went to Jacksonville? I think the quicker fix would be if he went to Jacksonville.
Well, I think their players match what Detroit wants to do. Like Jacksonville has that two-headed monster. If NTN could get like healthy and stay healthy, they have him and Big. Like you run the two-headed monster thing. You have talent at wide receiver, enough talent, not what Detroit has, but enough talent. Like I think what Ben Johnson at least wants to do, at least if that's what his style would be if he left Detroit, I think Jacksonville fits him better. That's the other thing too. I think in Chicago, I think the scheme is all wrong for what Chicago has with their offensive line. Like they should be doing quick 3-step drops, at the most 5-step drops, and I'm seeing play calls for deep ends and stuff like that, which routes that take way too much time to develop, and they just don't have the offensive line to pull that off. But yes, I think if I'm Ben Johnson, I go to Jacksonville. That's because I look at it kind of Champ's point when it comes to going to the AFC West. If you stay in your division, you still got to go against Green Bay. You still got to go against Detroit every year. Minnesota ain't going nowhere. So I think the AFC South will be an easier division to succeed in. Mm-hmm. The only thing that you can make an argument for is that you have to literally go through Patrick Mahomes every year in the playoffs until that dude retires. So, but I don't know why I have this feeling. Everybody kind of seems that way too. It's like why nobody wants to give up on Trevor Lawrence yet. I don't. What is it?
To be honest with you, like I haven't been a Trevor Lawrence fan. Like I said, people fall in love. I always say this, man, and this is nothing political. I'm just saying when it comes to being a prototypical quarterback, how it looks. People fall in love with what he looks like rather than what he is. Tall, rocket arm, can see over the offense. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5". If you wrote a movie, if you were central casting a movie on Trevor or on the prototypical quarterback, Trevor Lawrence would be it. He's mobile and everything.
Yeah, he's literally Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
Yes. But the thing is, there's been a lot of flaws in his game. People don't want to talk about, he's had turnover problems, not to mention, although he was injured, he had that horrible down the stretch play last year where they was basically tied for the number 1 seed, and they pretty much tanked the entire season. It's just wow.
I just don't get it, though. It doesn't make any sense. That's the problem that I'm like. That's why I'm curious what, I'm sorry I interrupted. To finish your thought, I'm like, why though?
And the thing is, look, I've said this too. A lot of these teams are so anxious to find. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. A lot of these teams are like thirsty dudes on Instagram. They're like thirsty dudes on Instagram. They're just anxious to find that one quarterback. We got to find a quarterback. Okay, find him. But the thing is, understand this. Are they worth $237 million? Not every quarterback is worth that. Not every quarterback is worth over $237 million. And you're seeing it, and quite frankly, you're seeing it more and more. Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, just to name a few. A lot of these quarterbacks who got huge contracts, if you really want me to be honest with you, the only two that have gotten contracts in recent memory, the last 2 years, that have delivered on their contracts is Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow.
You can make an argument that Joey B hasn't either because he's been hurt.
Say again?
I said you can make an argument that Joey B hasn't because he's been hurt, but
because he's been hurt. But I'm talking about he came back this year.
Yeah, and he's playing lights out. Yeah,
he's playing lights out.
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson, he got paid first day he did, won MVP and went to an AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
So those are the only two quarterbacks that have delivered on their promise. We're going to invest this money with you. We're going to invest on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to invest here. A lot of people don't talk about this. Although some of it didn't work, the Jacksonville Jaguars spent the most money in the history of the NFL and free agency when it came to bringing talent to Jacksonville. They spent the top half. So the thing is, I think that, like I said, they're like thirsty dudes on Instagram trying to thirst after Instagram models. I have to have her. But you don't realize a lot of this, much like on Instagram, these quarterbacks aren't what you think they are. A lot of them are mid. A lot of them are middle of the pack quarterbacks. The Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joey B's, those are 1 in a million. They're 1 in a million. That's how come it's on. When you talk about top quarterbacks in the league, that's why those 4 get brought up, and it's unanimous. You rarely hear about someone outside of those 4, and maybe Justin Herbert. So when you talk as far as talent and everything is concerned,
I know.
Yeah.
But those guys are an anomaly. Everybody who comes into the league that can throw a football through a tire and is central casting as far as how you look as a quarterback is not that guy. I made the argument earlier this year. Hey, you shouldn't sign Tua. Look what happened. You're behind the 8 ball. I made the argument earlier this year. Hey, Dallas, you shouldn't re-sign Dak. Look what happened. Arguments was being made this year. Hey, Cleveland, you shouldn't keep starting Deshaun Watson. Look what happened. Shane Diesel's on the bench right about now, and he can't do nothing for you. So, with that being said, you have to understand every last one of these quarterbacks is not worth $230 million. You have to limit what you're doing. So these teams need to be real careful about who they invest in. Look at how careful the Tampa Bay Bucks invested in Baker Mayfield. They didn't go all out and give him a $200 million contract. Okay, we'll give you 140 because we know it's going to take a lot for you to be great. And to his credit, he's doing good right now. But they need to get back to paying middle of the pack quarterbacks like middle of the pack quarterbacks. Otherwise, we're just going to see a whole bunch of overpaid guys not doing anything like we're doing now.
How you keep a straight face after making that damn joke, champ? Oh, I tried so hard, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Oh, how you keep a straight face after making that joke? I mean, just like just bam, like zinger, like right on in there, and just like
it's kind of like, hey, man, like here in the Farton church, you gotta keep reading the scripture.
You just keep going.
Keep going. But last question, guys.
Horrible.
Got anything else to add with this? With Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams trouble.
Okay.
So, y'all don't have anything to add, real quick.
Nah. I got nothing. I got nothing else though, Fredo. No, I got nothing else really about that.
All right, real quick. For Detroit, real quick, before we end the show. Is the Bobby Layne curse coming to an end this year in Detroit?
No.
Remember when he left Detroit, he said Detroit will not win another championship for the next 50 years.
No.
Is that curse coming to an end this year?
No.
Damn.
No.
Sure.
I mean, well, yeah, because
No.
If they have to play Kansas City, then probably no.
No, exactly. It's a no until it's not. You are still the Detroit Lions until you're not. So you like Amon St. Brown was on some podcast or his podcast or something talking about like Packer fans are kind of arrogant and this and blah, full of themselves, and it's just kind of like, dude,
they got 4 of these.
Yeah, and like we've been that division's daddy for the past like 40 years. So like,
but he was your daddy Sunday.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's like the little guy, like 1 in 100. Like that's
hey, but what was the most recent one?
That's okay, but until okay. So here's the thing: when like they meet in the playoffs, okay, that's cute that you can do it during the regular season. Like that's adorable. Like if I'll give you cookie, that's fine, but you better do it when it counts. You better do it.
They got to the NFC Championship game though. Y'all didn't. It's a what have you done for me lately league. I hear what you're saying. I get the championships. Why you think we don't talk about the Dallas Cowboys no more? We don't give a damn about them. They got 5. Don't nobody care.
I know.
It's what have you done lately? It's a what have you done for me lately league.
But it's not like Green Bay's been terrible for the past like 10 years or something. Green Bay.
I agree. I agree.
If like Green Bay was like not relevant for the past, like, let's say even the last like 3 to 5 years, they weren't relevant. Like I was like, yeah, okay, fine. It's Detroit's time. But like until you're, like you're like, again, it's like if the Bears all of a sudden won and beat the Packers, I'd be like, and they started talking a bunch of crap. It's just like, okay, you're being cute, but we still your daddy. And until you're not,
they've got 1 Super Bowl, man. They've been living off of it ever since. One Super Bowl,
and that's fine. We are a what have you done for me lately league. Well, Detroit hasn't done anything yet.
I mean, neither one of you have done nothing in a while. I'm just saying.
They haven't done anything. They've been to an NFC title game. The second one in their 80, 90-year thing. Great. That's okay. And look, I'm not even a Detroit Lions hater. I love seeing them succeed because they've been so bad for so long. Like, it's cool. And Dan Campbell is an awesome head coach. And I love seeing the fact that Jared Goff is like, I'm not like wishing ill or wanting them even not to succeed, even as a Wisconsinite and Packer fan. I'm just saying, like, it's like Miami right now. Let's say like the Bills or the Miami Dolphins. Like, okay, you've been good, but it's like talking crap to Patriot fans. Yes, I know they stink now, but like, what have you done? You as a franchise, like, there's a reason why Detroit Lions have been one of the worst and laughed at franchises for the past forever. And so, again, it's like before 2004 when the Red Sox would like beat the Yankees in a season series and talk a bunch of crap. And it's like, okay.
All right, talk that talk if you want to. We'll see y'all.
Go ahead. That's cute. Go ahead. But until you win something, hush. They haven't won anything yet. So now if they do, talk all the crap you want. You talk all the crap you want. But again, I'm coming from somebody that goes to a stadium in a city and it's called Titletown. It's called Titletown for a reason. Like, you know, Green Bay's never had a curse. So, you know, I just, again, I hope they succeed. I like seeing them succeed. I love good football. I just, running your mouth right now, you know, not quite there yet. Like, let's win a ring. So until that happens, like, is the curse over? No, because we still got, even if it's not Green Bay, you still got Patrick Mahomes. You still do. You have the third or fourth greatest quarterback of all time, and Andy Reid, who is the top 5 NFL coach of all time, sitting on the other side waiting for you. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, I've never seen an undefeated team go undefeated for this long and nobody's talking about them. And it's like, if it was Peyton Manning or Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they'd be talking about them. And everybody just seems to forget that, you know, again, I like Detroit. I love watching. They play my brand of football. They run the football. They play hard-nosed defense. I just, not yet.
I reckon. I suppose. I mean, I look at it from the standpoint of like, hey, I mean, I guess it's one of those things. Is like, what is he supposed to say in that situation? I mean, I get where you're coming from too, because they ain't done nothing yet. But I mean, it's got to start from somewhere. I mean, you got to believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? So it got to start from somewhere.
Yes, I'm not saying he can't talk at all. I just saying, like, you know,
I get where you coming from too.
Say that Packer fans are a little like, you know, like they're acting out of pocket. It's kind of like, well, we kind of have a reason to, you know, it's like the year before when I had a bunch of Bear fans like talking crap, like when they were going into the last year with Justin Fields. And I had to make them a video and go. I made a video and I said, this is before Jordan Love even played a game or a down as a starter. And I said, we've been doing this with quarterbacks for 30 years now. Like, don't be surprised if this kid's good. And here we are. So it's like, until you're not, the New England Patriots were one of the most laughed at franchises until they won something. So until that day happens, you are who you are. So it's like, yes, I don't expect him to just say like, yes, Green Bay's my daddy and I shall respect them and love him and squeeze him forever. But, you know, I don't expect that, but I do like, it is kind of silly, but like I said, I love seeing him play. I love Dan Campbell as head coach. Just not yet. And I'll eat that, you know, I'll eat that crow if they win and if they beat Green Bay in the playoffs and they go and win a Super Bowl and beat Patrick Mahomes or whoever. Then I'll eat that crow and be like, all right, curse is done and over with. Congratulations.
VRF. Then we'll wrap it on up.
Well, I mean, hey, Good quick show. I always have fun doing the show. Even though you can kind of tell in my face I'm a little sleepy and I'm about ready to hit the bed and lay down. but for real, I always have fun. I always have fun. It's always fun. BRF Sports is a TikTok handle, as always. Link tree is in the bio. Tuesday's coming up. I'm gonna have a new edition of the Takedown podcast with Spiral Sports Media and Hate to Pile On. That's our wrestling show every Tuesday, 7:00, around that 7:30 Eastern. So if y'all ain't already subscribed to the Takedown podcast on YouTube, y'all might want to get on that because y'all are usually in for a pretty good show every Tuesday night. So definitely check that out. I'm gonna start doing some research with the baseball season being over, with free agency and hot stove coming around. You know, who's the best available players in free agency, who's going to be available in trade. I'm gonna try and get some content out about that, kind of show everybody the ropes as far as like what the hot stove is, what it consists of, and how it's going to work, and how it's going to change the landscape of Major League Baseball come 2025. So be on the lookout for that. I will definitely get my research on there. And it's like as I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. We got a big three for a reason. Got Flash over here above me, my Wisconsin brother. Got my fellow 706 brother here, Champ. And we're going to continue to do this until the wheels fall off because we are the big three for a reason.
Yes, indeed. So, got a special treat for the audience with Survivor Series coming up. Got something special for you next week. Best Survivor Series match in history.
Wait. Classic Survivor Series match or just in general?
Just in general. Best Survivor Series match in history.
Ooh.
In order to get prepared for Survivor Series. So be ready for that one. Had to drop a pipe bomb on all y'all at the beginning. So be ready for that.
Dude, I have to go to bed, man. Why are you making my brain work like this right before I go to bed?
I mean, drink some Pepsi.
You're so mean.
Pepsi always put me to sleep. Plus, Chris Jenner endorsed it. So, I'm going to drink it if Chris do.
Y'all ain't right.
Get you some Pepsi. But, that joke went right over his head. But hey Chris, by the way. But on that note, man.
On that note,
Flash, you got anything you want to add?
Nope. I'm gonna drink me some Pepsi and put some thought into this. So catch me on Flash and on TikTok and Instagram. And I always have a ball coming on here because so up until next week, we will have some fun.
On that note, I will holler. Shout out to Columbus, Georgia, greatest city in America. Y'all doing real good tonight, man. Hey, man. And shout out to the HBCU. We had the classic down here between Albany State and the and Fort Valley State, man. Look, shout out to the HBCUs. We love y'all. We appreciate everything all the alumni and everybody does for the community and everything of that nature. So shout out to you guys who paved the way so guys like us can come on these platforms in order to make money off of YouTube or TikTok or wherever we're trying to make money off of. So, because that's what we're here for, believe it or not. If somebody just tell you, I'm just doing it. No, they're trying to do it to achieve something. And that money is the goal. So on that note, thank you to the HBCUs for paving the way. Shout out to Columbus, Georgia for hosting it once again. And we appreciate you. Enjoy college football. And remember, on Monday, happy Veterans Day to all my fellow veterans. Go to Applebee's, go somewhere and get you some food. They handed it out to you guys. So go somewhere, get you some food, get you some of that good food. And, because you deserve to be thanked for all of the service that you did. So happy Veterans Day that's coming up on Monday to all my fellow veterans, man. Y'all did it. Y'all served. Y'all came through in the country in a time of need, and you deserve it. So go to Applebee's, go to Chili's, or wherever you're going to go. Get you some of that good food and fill your stomach up. Fill yourself up with some joy, especially during this time. But on that note, we signing off. We are gone.